Hi everyone, welcome to Lola's Frugal Life. This is episode number 102. Today we're going to be talking about tracking your credit card expenses. So please stick around for a few quick words from our sponsor and we'll get right into the show. Okay everyone, so today I wanted to talk about tracking credit card expenses. So credit card use, I know, is controversial. Some say you should not use credit cards no matter what. Other people are more okay with using it as long as you pay them in full. So this episode is geared towards those of us like myself who do use a credit card to earn reward points or things like that. But you pay it in full every month. You're not using it as a tool to accumulate. Well, it wouldn't be a tool to accumulate debt. You're not using it as something that's going to accumulate debt. In my mind, the purpose of this episode is for the person who's using a credit card to make purchases that they would make anyway using cash, but you're using a credit card instead. And, maybe you're doing it to get cash back rewards, or you're trying to earn travel points or whatever. So that's kind of what this is geared for. And the reason that I thought it would be important to do an episode like this is because I know in the past, a few years ago, when I was kind of like really fine-tuning my budget process and everything and really, really learning how to make sure I was tracking everything, one of the areas that I would fall short on was with purchases made on a credit card, because I would not update my budget as frequently as I should, and then that would cause me I would forget about things. I wouldn't check it. Like now I check it like generally every couple of days, definitely at least once a week. Like that's the absolute minimum, but I'm usually checking it a few times in between. But what happens is, if you're tracking your actual expenses against your budget based on the activity in your checking account, it's really important to add that extra step of tracking your credit card expenses as they occur, not when the bill comes, because you can really wind up coming up short if you're not thinking of all the things that you're purchasing. Because what you want to do is, as you make that purchase, you want to kind of subtract that money out of your checking account as if you paid cash, to set it, not literally recording it like as if it went out, but you want to say, okay, well, this is how much I have in my checking. I made this purchase, so I really only have this much available. In order to make sure that you have enough to pay that bill once it comes, you need to kind of account for that money to make sure it's set aside, because you don't want to end up getting a bill and then you didn't have enough left in your budget to pay for it. So, even if you have enough savings to cover that bill, the whole point is that you don't want to have to pull from your savings because you purchased more on your credit card than you had funds in your budget available to pay for. So, especially given that the credit card payments are only due once a month, if you wait until that statement comes, you're likely going to have made many more purchases than you remember. You might pick up something. Maybe you had to pick up bread and milk, $5 here, $10 there. Maybe you were out with your family and you ran through and got a nice fancy drink or something. I don't know, ran through Starbucks or whatever, or ran through a drive-through for a quick lunch. There's so many little purchases, and if you wait until the end of the month, they really, really add up. And you forget what the different things are. You forget like what the different things were for, where you spent your money, and you have a whole month's worth of activity now to try and figure out, and you have to pay for it. And if you haven't recorded that against your budget during that whole time, well, now it's going to make it really difficult. And even if you're not tracking to a budget, I'm kind of assuming that you are, but I know many people probably aren't. Even if you're not tracking to a budget yet, I think you should, because if you don't have a budget, as much as you might think you know where your money is going, you probably can do a lot better with your money. But even if you're not tracking to a budget, the whole point is that you really need to be tracking what you've been spending so that you can subtract that out of your available checking account balance, so that when that bill comes, you already have the money set aside. You don't want to let those charges add up and accumulate to an amount higher than you have available. So like one way that I have found that's really helpful in sticking to my budget when it comes to credit card purchases is I record the amount against my budget like as soon as I make the charge. So it's like, say if I purchase, I don't know, dog food on Amazon, I have like a pet expense budget, and one of the line items in the pet expense budget is dog food. So I'll record it against dog food, even though I didn't actually spend the money yet, like cash, but I'll record it against dog food so I know, okay, this is how much I have left in that budget. And then what I'll do is I have like a separate spreadsheet. I don't record it in the actual like checkbook register in QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks to keep my checking, but whether you use Excel or whatever kind of, however you keep track of your checking balance, I don't record it going out there, but on a separate spreadsheet, I show my balance that is like per the actual checking register. And then I'll minus out what I spent the money on, and I'll keep a running total. So that say I've spent $150 so far this month on the credit card, I kind of have that minused out of my available checking balance as if it's already gone out, like on a separate spreadsheet. That way when the bill comes, I have that money set aside already, and I can just send it right to the credit card, and there's no additional looking at the bill, figuring out what the charges are for, looking to see what budget category they go for, because it's too overwhelming. And who wants to sit there and look at a month's credit card statement and try and go back and remember, especially when you're making purchases, like say if you go to I don't know, Petco or something, and you buy a whole bunch of stuff there. You know, maybe, I don't know, you buy some pet food, maybe you see like a new toy, this or that, and then you come home, you don't record it, and then when your credit card bill comes a month later, it's going to be hard to remember what those various items might be. Like if you're trying to track specifically, maybe Petco wasn't the best example, but like for my pet budget, I have it separate. I'll have like dog food is separate from like maybe miscellaneous like pet toys or whatever. So like I would want to know what I actually purchased and put it in the right categories. Well, if I'm waiting until the end of the month when this bill finally comes, I'm never going to remember. I'm just going to see Petco $35 and I'm going to be like, okay, whatever, and just stick it in some category. I'm not going to be able to keep track properly in the way I want to. So that's another reason why it's really important to keep on top of those purchases as soon as they happen, so that you can really see where your money's going and not just feel like I have enough money for this, put it on the card, when the card comes, pay it, because it's just too easy to let those purchases add up and not really realize what you've spent until that bill comes and you're like, wow, I spent a lot more than I thought I did. So another tip regarding keeping track of credit card expenses and making sure you have the funds available to pay that bill and tracking against your budget is to limit yourself to one credit card if possible, just because it makes it so much easier to check what you've spent. You can log on your computer maybe like a couple times a week and just look and say, you know, maybe there's something on there like, oh, that's right, I forgot I ran in that store and picked up that thing, let me record that. You know, I also have access on my phone. That way, if I'm out and I'm just sitting somewhere, I might just click on it real quick and just kind of check the activity. It just kind of keeps it fresh in my mind so I don't forget, and then I can always easily look when I'm at home and I put it down in my spreadsheet. I just find that when you're trying to keep track, it's so much easier to have it in one place if at all possible. But I don't only use one card. I do have I will also, like, for example, if I'm going to get like a better deal at a certain store, then the cashback rewards that I'll get on my main credit card, I will use another card. Like, for example, Target has their Target Red card. I get 5% off my purchase for using that card. So whenever I go to Target specifically, I will use that card. But what I do is the second I get home, I make sure I record that, and I make sure I record the amount that's going to be due to Target when the bill comes. especially I have to make sure I'm really careful with that one because I don't have online access for that account to check and see what I've spent if I forgot to record it, like to go in a couple days later and be like, oh yeah, let me just double check and make sure my balance is what I think it is. I'm sure Target has online access for their red card. I just never set it up. So I'm just always really careful to make sure if I go to Target and I make a purchase, as soon as I get home with that receipt, I'll like put it like right on my kitchen counter or put it next to my computer or whatever to make sure that like I'll go in and record that right away. So that's just like, you know, another tip. Just kind of make sure you can just limit yourself to one if possible to keep the activity easier to track. And then if you do have to use a separate one for a different store, you know, just make sure that you're really staying on top of it. Because you don't want to get in the situation where you forgot about purchases, especially if it's like a big one, like maybe you went clothes shopping or whatever. And I know sometimes like if I go clothes shopping with my kids, you know, we'll go to the mall or whatever, and we're hitting like 5-6 different stores, buying something from here, buying something from there. And if I don't come home and record that, it's very hard to remember what the different purchases were for. Even if it's all clothes, like for example, with my kids, I have clothing budgets for each of the kids. So I'm not gonna know if I wait till this credit card bill comes. I'm not gonna remember like who got what at one store. So it just makes it a whole lot easier to do it when it's still fresh in your mind. So that's kind of it. I just think that might be important to some people. Some of you are probably like, oh yeah, well obviously, but I feel like you might know it's obvious, but if you're not doing it, you can still let it get away from you. So just keep that in mind if you are a credit card user, just to make sure you don't let yourself get caught in a situation where you spent more than you wanted to just because you simply weren't staying on top of the charges that you put on the card. And yeah, so that's it. This is kind of a short episode for today. I don't know if I just already said that, but I thought it would be a good topic. I hope that this maybe helps someone with helping you stick to your budget a little bit better and making sure you have enough cash when that credit card bill comes. So if you would like to reach out to me for any reason, either episode suggestions or any feedback, I would love to hear from you. You can message me through Facebook. The page is facebook.com/Lola's Frugal Life, and you can send me a message through Facebook Messenger once you're there. You can also submit a request to join our private listener group, which is at facebook.com/groups/Lola's Frugal Life. We have a really nice group of people there that are starting to build. It's still a small group, but we're getting a couple new members each week. So it's definitely been growing. Well, at least in the last week, we got a couple new. So the growth is starting to get quicker. But we have nice people in there. It's going to be a really great group. So I'd love to have you join. Just submit a request, and I usually check it every day, so you'll get approved and added very quickly. Also, don't forget to subscribe. And if you feel up to it, I would really appreciate a review. I hear that it really helps get the show found in search results. So that would be really much appreciated if you feel like doing that. Thank you so much. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really awesome day.